We've spoken about Barbie. Now let's talk about Oppenheimer. Hello and welcome back to another Popcorn Chat. I hope you guys are doing well. In this video, I'm going to be speaking to you about Christopher Nolan's latest feature film, Oppenheimer. This film follows J. Robert Oppenheimer and leads up to the creation of the atomic bomb and the effects that this will have on the world. So let's get into what works. So one of the best things about this film for me has to be Cillian Murphy's performance. I really enjoyed Cillian Murphy's performances in a lot of his previous work. 28 Days Later, Red Eye, Peaky Blinders. He's done it all. He's done a real range of different characters, and I think again he brings his A game and is excellent in terms of showing those various emotions that Oppenheimer goes through during the course of this film. I don't think this film would have worked as well if it wasn't for Cillian Murphy in the lead role playing J. Robert Oppenheimer. He's able to convey various emotions that have you conflicted with the fact that this man has created an atomic bomb that is there to destroy people and cause war, yet you feel for him on various levels in terms of his family and the intense sort of impact this is going to have upon him once it's been used. But at the same time, you're like, but this guy's a womanizer. There's so many things going on, and you can see it so evidently within Cillian Murphy's face, the way in which he says certain things, and I think that's what makes this film really engaging is his performance alone. The score by Ludwig Göransson was excellent and really helped to amplify what we are seeing visually on the screen, and I think it really intensified the way in which Oppenheimer was feeling and the foreshadowing with some of that sort of using sound samples from some later scenes much earlier on, and it was all mimicking a lot of sort of drumming beats and rhythms and heart palpitations and sort of this tension, and I think that's what really sort of solidified that pressure of time and the overwhelming situation in which a lot of these scientists were in during this period of time. And I think Ludwig's sort of sound design and score really sort of worked in this one for me. As we know, Nolan is very partial to practical effects. There's some great moments with the design of the atomic bomb. We have a moment later on in a library which uses some really great visuals, which again, alongside Cillian Murphy's performance and sort of what his character's going through in that moment with some practical effects, was excellent. I thought that was one of my favourite scenes in that library. I love what he did, sort of making us able to feel what the character is feeling in a creative way in camera. I'm sad to say that it isn't all positive for me. There's going to be quite a few negatives, a lot of things that didn't really work. Once again, Nolan fails at writing women well. Florence Pugh's character of Jean Tatlock was a real person. Nonetheless, he chooses to show her in such a negative way and is very much this sort of hysterical character, and I think the portrayal of her, it doesn't do the character any favour. For me, this was a very sort of demeaning way in which to show that character, and I was a little bit disappointed to see Florence Pugh had chosen a role like this, because we've seen her in lots of films where she's been the lead and been this sort of very much empowering character, but this one was just, it was really sort of a shame to see her choose a role like this. And like I said, the writing of this character from Nolan, it's very typical of him, and I thought, we might get something a little bit better. Nope, not in this film. As soon as I saw the trajectory in which this character was going through, it reminded me of Mal from Inception. The way in which he treats her character, again, there's no sort of truth in that, but it's just another way in which he writes women poorly and writes them out of stories and makes them look a certain way and behave a certain way. And it's a bit frustrating. Saying that, I do think Emily Blunt's character was much more in line with what I wanted to see from female characters within one of his films. However, one of her main character traits was the fact that she was a housewife and a drunk, so I'm not so sure he's got it right there. And you can argue it's about when it was set and the sort of the culture of the way in which women's roles were in society, but nonetheless, like, come on, you can add something more to her character. She had some good lines, don't get me wrong, and she told Oppenheimer to sort of snap out of it a lot of the times, but a lot of people are just going to remember her for drinking and being a mum, and yeah, Yes. I will put my hands up and say that I didn't know who Oppenheimer was when this film was announced, just over a year ago. And I had to go and watch a few documentary clips before watching this film. Nonetheless, I was still very confused as to what was actually happening, with a lot of name drops and this sort of political angle in which it goes for in that third act. I felt very lost, and I'm sure there are other people that feel a bit lost with that. I don't think I'm alone in that. I'm just saying it was very sort of baffling coming into an area of history that I wasn't too familiar with. So I found it quite hard to keep up with. But a lot of people seem to got it. I just didn't. The film liked to drop infamous names throughout, and it definitely made me sort of eye roll in those moments. I felt like it was a cheap way to establish and reinforce when this exactly was set. And I think they could have done it in a different way, but it happened multiple times throughout. And every time it happened, it really sort of cheapened the narrative for me by continuously contextualizing when this film was happening. For instance, Albert Einstein constantly pops up throughout this film, and whenever he did, it felt quite comical, and myself and other people in the screening were laughing at when he appeared. There was one moment where someone steps in a taxi and it drives off, and out steps Albert Einstein to talk to Oppenheimer, and there was multiple people laughing. I was laughing, and it just felt very tonally wrong compared to the rest of the film. But these cameos by, various sort of political and scientific figures really sort of drew me out. Much like some of Nolan's other films, and very much well-established directors as well, they like to push their films towards that 3-hour runtime, and this one does the same. And for me, it felt too long. I checked my watch multiple times throughout the film, and that's never a good sign. In that first portion of the film, I was waiting for Oppenheimer to get this idea, then I was waiting for him to get the scientists, I was waiting for him to build it, waiting for him to test it, waiting for him to drop it, waiting for this political thing. And it was always, constant waiting for these things to happen. And I didn't really anticipate that sort of legal hearing for the final act of the film, which again throws off the pacing, and it's not really sure that I thought that's what it was going to be about going into this film. I'll be honest and say that I didn't enjoy Nolan's previous films of Interstellar and Tenet. Saying that, I did go into Oppenheimer open-minded, however, it still didn't work for me. Clearly a lot of people are loving this film, and maybe it's just me in the minority. And that's cinema for you. It's so divisive. There was a lot going on in this film. A lot of characters, name drops, different sort of plot lines, and I got really lost at times. Saying that, I could feel every emotion coming through Cillian and Emily Blunt's characters. I was there with the emotional side, and I felt that. Just the surrounding elements didn't work cohesively for me. So I'm going to give Oppenheimer 2.5 stars out of 5. Thank you so much for watching this review of Oppenheimer. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments if you've seen it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I'll see you very soon for another popcorn chat.